Let's look at the top of the range here, the 9K and above on DraftKings. Your shorter odds players as well. You got as we mentioned, you got Bryson kicking it off at 11-7. He's just been on a tear. Webb Simpson coming back after taking the week off last week with the COVID scare. Terrell Hatton, Patrick Reed, Hideki, Victor, Sungjae, Fowler, Finau, Watson, Kevin Na, and Scotty effing Scheffler. We're going to give you 3 GPP plays or tournament plays. We're going to give you a cash lock, and we're going to give you a fade or someone to avoid in this area. Pat, I'll kick it off to you, buddy. Where are you gonna go? How are you gonna treat the top end of this range?
Well, in anything like this where you have a field that's a little bit weaker, there's a lot of guys in here that I like, and so it is hard to sort of pinpoint guys necessarily that you might want to fade here. But I'll start with GPP plays, and right there at 10-7, I love some Terrell Hatton. I know you haven't been a fan of him. You faded him a little bit lately, but look, the dude is just on fire this year. You look at his form and everything else. I mean, he is playing incredibly well. He's second in the field in strokes gained approach, 27th in opportunities gained, third in birdie or better percentage. He is second in par 4 scoring, 42nd in driving accuracy, so not that great. But I just love him this week. I think he is a great play at 10-7. I like starting in that range with my lineups. And look, it's going to be hard to fade like a guy like Bryson. I don't think I will, even though I do think he's going to be the highest owned player this week. But when I'm starting a lineup, I love Hatton. And you know what? Right below him, I like Patrick Reed as well at 10-5. He is another GPP play of mine. Looking at his stats, 25th in approach, 25th in opportunities gained. He is first in birdie or better percentage, 8th in par 4 scoring. I love some Patrick Reed this week. And you know what? He barely made the cut last week, but after making it through, he ended up doing pretty well with the T24. So, I mean, I was sweating him in the lineup just to make the cut. And then he played pretty well on the weekend. So I like some Patrick Reed this week. And he seems to like this course. He talked about it. If you listen to some of his quotes from last year, you have to kind of work the ball off the tee and, into these greens. And he likes to do that. I think he's got a creative mind when it comes to that. So I'm a fan of Patrick Reed this week at 10-5. Last GPP play for me, damn it, I'm going to go back to Scotty Scheffler. I'm just going to do it. God. I can't believe it. I'm going to do it. And
the whole world thought it was going to be me.
But and what the hell was his problem on par 5s last week? I don't know.
No kidding. God, he should have feasted.
I feel like
feasted.
And he should do it again this week. If he doesn't, then maybe he's going to be dead to me. But I'm going back to Scheffler at 9,000. Definitely checking all the boxes this week. I think we're going to get a little bit lower ownership, I hope.
I think you will.
That's another reason for me to play him in GPPs. So I'm going back.
Yeah, I mean, he got a tremendous price increase, obviously with the weaker field, and then he crapped the bed. So yeah, he's gonna. I mean, and then before that he was 55th at the Charles Schwab. I think you're definitely going to get lower ownership on him.
So we'll see. Sure. Son of a bitch. For me, cash, I'm going to go Sungjae M. I mean, I just feel like outside of the missed cut a couple weeks ago, the guy's just as solid as they come across the board. I like that price. If you're starting a cash lineup right there at 9,800, I'm okay with that. So I will play some M in cash.
This is crazy.
Now, I haven't said my fade yet, so before you get too crazy,
okay,
let me talk about my fade. So my fade this week is a guy that is projected, from what I've seen, to be one of the highest owned players this week. And I like him a lot. I think he's a fantastic player, and he's played well lately after a little bit of a rocky start to the year. But at 10,000, I do not like Victor Hovland this week. Wow. I am going to fade Victor Hovland. And a lot of it is really just ownership. I mean, he really checks pretty much. I can't give you a stat where he's not really checking a box, but it's just an ownership play for me. If he's going to be second or third highest owned, I don't want any part of it in a tournament. So Victor Hovland will be my fade. But that was a tough one because I like a lot of guys in this category. outside of maybe like Bubba. Might be another fade. But anyway, go ahead.
This is crazy. Like, this is a rare week where the listeners are going to have to really make some tough decisions up top because there's not a lot of agreement. In fact, there's basically zero agreement in terms of nailing the exact plays. Now, I don't like strongly hate any of your plays. But this is crazy that we don't have any of the same. Normally have like one or two the same.
Yeah, we usually are able to just like say, okay, well, David had so and so, so I can.
Yeah. So this actually brings me to a good point because we actually had a Facebook question on our Facebook page about this tonight. About somebody made a comment that said, like, I don't know what to do. Everyone says always fade the chalk, and I do that, and it doesn't work out. Like Webb winning last week or whatever. And my response was, listen, if anyone is telling you to always fade the chalk, you need to stop listening. That is not correct. There are times to play the chalk, and there are plenty of scenarios to fade the chalk. I mean, we have the chalk bomb, right? Like we give you the chalk bomb, the popular player that you should consider fading because we found more reasons to fade this player than we found on any other player. But I say this because I am eating some chalk up here in this range. In the 9K and above range, I'm eating chalk, and I'm eating it with Bryson, and I'm eating with Victor Hovland. I'm going to keep riding the hot train. I love the way both these guys are playing. They are checking all the boxes. Bryson is now in a field that is considerably weaker. He is a lion. He's a lion on the prowl. One of my favorite movies. In fact, it is my favorite all-time funny movie. It used to be like I used to have like Anchorman up there. Pootie Tang's a big favorite of mine. But one of my absolute favorite movie of all time right now is The Other Guys. And when Will Ferrell and Mark Wahlberg get into it, and he talks about if he were a lion, or I would eat you. I would develop a breathing apparatus, and I would get it to the ocean. I would make a breathing apparatus of kelp so that I could go eat you and your seal girlfriend, and I would kill you. You know what I mean? Like, Bryson is ready to feast on this weak field, this Nate Lashley defending crap show of a field. Okay, I am riding it. I'm paying for it. I don't care. I'm ready. Hovland.
You don't fear like a little bit of a regression after now we're in week 4 in a row.
No, man, no, dude. The boy has been,
and for his price, he's got to finish pretty high.
He does,
which I will say,
he's finished there the last six tournaments he's played in.
I don't see that he's not. If he's out of the top 10, I mean, I don't know. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I guess you could say, okay, he has to finish like 6th or better to pay for him, to be able to meet his value, his price. But he's done that for the last like 6 tournaments he's played in. This is a weaker field, and I don't know, man. I feel like I don't want to get off of it too. I don't want to get off of it right now. I don't think it's time to get off of it. I think he was itching to get back out here when we were out 90 days. He's prepared to play. He's healthy. He wants to prove it. He wants to keep doing it. He's motivated. I'm in. I'm going to eat it.
I'm with you there. And the thing with, and I don't know. With Hovland, to me, and we try to say this is a bold fade, and to me that's a little bit of a bold fade this week, which is one of the reasons I try to keep that definition, like the underlying definition of what we do, and when we fade is a bold fade, and that is for me probably a bold fade, but that's just. I mean,
you can't find a reason to fade him unless you just want to say ownership, which is always a reason to. You can always make an argument. I mean, listen. I am telling you what I feel like doing right now as of Monday night. And I'm prepared to see Bryson at 30% projected ownership. I will likely have him at like 80%. Okay. If you say, you know what, the attraction of Bryson crap in the bed, which may mean like a T30 or worse, and crap in the bed on 30% of lineups out there is too good for me to pass up, I'm fading him, then that's fine, dude. That's a good move. That's what you want to do. That's a great move. That's why, ultimately, like, you guys make the decisions on this thing. But, fading Bryson this week, and I think fading Hovland, because Hovland's going to be way up there too. I mean, Hovland's going to be 20, 25% as well, if not more, especially in like maybe a higher dollar entry, single entries, 3 max entries. People don't want to pay up for Bryson. They're going to start at Hovland. He's going to be up there. So in DFS, both of these guys you can easily fade, and I will not be mad at you. I'm just telling you, for me, when I looked at the rest of this field, I'm going to make up for the ownership in other areas, and I'm eating Bryson and Hovland, and I'm going to let those boys feast. They're both young. They're both motivated. I don't care about 4 weeks in a row. I don't care if we're talking, Tiger up there playing 4 weeks in a row, or Adam Scott playing 4 weeks in a row. That's the different story. But for those two guys, I don't care. So Hovland is also, while I'm on him, I also wrote him down to start my cash lineups with Victor Hovland. Feel really confident about him. Now, my third GPP play in this range, I do think is going to be a place that I can get some ownership leverage. And I'm going to pay.
I know where this is going. I know where this is going.
Where's it going?
I feel like it's going to Ricky Fowler.
It's not. It's going to Kevin Na at 90.
Oh, gosh almighty.
I am going to – I cannot even believe the word – hold on. Let me see. I cannot even believe I'm saying this. I am playing Kevin Na at 9,100 in tournaments on DraftKings or FanDuel, wherever you want to play him. Wherever you're playing DFS, I will play him at that range. To me, Kevin Na is a wonderful tournament player because he is so much boom or bust. Like, there is very little in between. I mean, just look at his recent form. But he checks a ton of boxes. Very, very accurate player. When he's putting, he is deadly. Okay. The irons have been pretty solid lately. He didn't have a good couple weeks. If you watch the telecast this past week, they made mention of him at the Charles Schwab or something. He was having some knee problems. He picked up his kid the wrong way or something. He felt a lot better. And then he comes out and finishes T5. I mean, he gained 10 strokes on the field, 5.5 putting, which is a big putting performance. You're going to see some regression there, but gained over 2 on approach, gained almost 2 off the tee, which is unheard of for him. He's actually been positive in strokes gained off the tee since the restart, which is pretty unheard of for him. And now you're at a course where accuracy is rewarded even more. I like that for Kevin Na, and I think he's going to be completely low owned here because people don't want to pay up for him, and I get it. But
I don't mind it. I don't mind the pick. I don't mind it.
That's where I'm going. My fade is Ricky. Until we see something, man, I've tried to get on it. I felt good about him at the Charles Schwab or at the Heritage, one or the other. I was on him. Miscut on both. I mean, he's just too inconsistent right now. He's going through all the swing changes. I don't feel like it's all clicking. The iron play is okay, but it's not what it usually has been for Ricky in the past. The driver is not good. I'm not ready to pay for it because I haven't seen it. At least with Kevin Na, I mean, I've seen it. Like, I saw it this week, this past week. So maybe a little recency bias there, but I don't know. I'm not believing it for Ricky. And we know that he's always going to be a little more popular than he should. I don't think he's going to be chalk, but I think he'll be a little more popular than he should in terms of tournaments. So,
Ricky and don't listen to his press conferences either.
No, don't, because he's going to tell you how good he's.
Yes.
I also think that there's some value in the betting market with Na at 50-1. Now Hovland at 25-1 is what I've seen. That's interesting to me. I think the young kid could break out. Again, if Nate Lashley can win this golf tournament, Victor Hovland can win this golf tournament. And the field is not that much stronger this year.
Yeah.
But I like Kevin Na at 50-1 too. That's what I've seen on DraftKings.
I don't mind Scheffler either at the 40-1 number. Which I'm showing different, by the way, than you are. I'm showing Kevin Na.
I looked earlier today, so maybe
I'm showing
it's changed.
Scheffler and Kevin Na at the same price now.
Na's odds are
so he's obviously getting bet up a little bit.
Oh, see, there you go. And I haven't placed any bets on him yet, so there you go. Interesting. Right. All right. Yeah, I think okay, let's go to AK. All right, so Harris English has withdrawn. That leaves a handful of boys here. This is where I'm going to get a little bit of leverage here, a little bit of ownership leverage here. Now, the first player, maybe not so much. Adam Hadwin. I'm going to be in on Adam Hadwin at 8,200. Feels like a great spot for him. He's been, he's always been a very accurate player with his irons, especially and off the tee. Hadn't done anything super spectacular since the restart, but he hadn't sucked either. 43rd at the Charles Schwab, 41st at the RBC Heritage. But like I said, he does check a lot of boxes, both in the last 2 weeks that he's played and just long term. Very accurate player, always tends to find the fairway. So, I think Hadwin is a pretty safe play down here. In fact, he's going to be a cash play for me as well. And maybe a little chalky, okay? But my next player I don't think is going to be chalky. And that's old Seabez. Christian Bezindidunhut, I think, is how you say it.
I don't think you said that right.
Yeah, maybe I didn't.
I think it's Buzin. Let me try to say this because I'm always bad at saying Bezuidenhout.
I mean, for someone who pronounced literally every letter, that was actually pretty good.
Okay, so anyway, I like him too, by the way. He's not in my picks. He was kind of like a bonus play for me, so I'm glad you talked about him. So good.
Yeah, man. Old Seabez, man. He's kind of like a European Tour Adam Hadwin. Like, he's very accurate, good putter, good, really strong iron player. Came out ready to commit to the PGA Tour this past year. Finished 18th at the Arnold Palmer before the restart. Now, he came out, missed the cut, shook the rust off a little bit at the Charles Schwab, but didn't miss it by much. Then he came out and finished 28th at the Heritage. Now, when you look at his numbers, you're going to look at strokes gained off the tee, maybe. You're going to see a lot of negative numbers. Well, that's because he's kind of a short knocker, okay? He's an understated kind of short knocking son of a gun. But when you go and you dive deeper into his accuracy numbers, he's a pretty accurate player off the tee. So his bread and butter is accuracy with the irons, drop some putts. Like I said, he's like European Tour Adam Hadwin. So, and I think he'll be pretty low. I mean, he should be pretty low owned. He was, let's see what he was. He was, where is it? Now I can't find it. Where was his ownership? Yeah, I can't find it. Anyway, he'll be low owned. So, Seabez, Adam
you talking about last week?
Yeah, or 2 weeks ago. At the Heritage.
Was, oh, shit. What? I don't know. That's not coming up.
He was low. Yeah, so I don't know. I like the value there. I like the play there with old Seabez. I seen a head-to-head matchup too with him against Kiz, and I hate.
You
to
seen
say
it? You seen a head-to-head matchup? I seen a head-to-head matchup.
Yo, I seen this head-to-head matchup. I have seen a head-to-head matchup with him and Kiz, and I gotta say, if I were a betting boy, which I am, I would
take that all day long.
All right,
yeah. Kiz.
Anyway, I think there are a number of players in here to fade. But the one that I will, I hate to say, so if I'm going to say it's a little bit of a bolder fade, and it's one I hate to make because I would love to see him play well, and that's JT Poston. Dude, JT's irons are sucky right now. His irons are bad. Like, normally this would be a wonderful spot for him. He's an accurate player. He's a tremendous putter. He's sneaky a little bit longer than I think a lot of people think. But his irons since the restart have not been good. Now, will Fleener text us on Wednesday and be like, boys, put JT in there. We found us a little something on the range today. Let's do it. Maybe. That's why you need to be a member of the Nut Hut. Who knows? But as of now, I feel like JT's overpriced due to the recent form. And I'm looking at recent form right now. Like, we're 3 tournaments into this. For a lot of these guys who have played all 3 weeks, like, I'm starting to go off of that, like, and look almost exclusively at that at this point.
Yeah, I think you need to.
I mean, yeah, I always look at long-term form too in terms of what style of player they are, which is where I'd say JT as a long-term form is a very accurate player. And normally irons are much better than they have been, but they are dreadful. I don't mean like they're just a little bit off. They are very bad. He ranks 116th in this field in strokes gained approach since the restart. 103rd in opportunities gained, 62nd in greens and regulation since the restart. He did play here last year, finished 11th, but he was playing better. I don't know. And for me to pay 8,700,
he won pretty close to this event last year, didn't he?
At the Wyndham, yeah.
8,700.
That's a lot, man. That's a lot.
All right,
what you got?
All right, so I'm going to start. By the way, my fade was actually, I was leaning towards Harris English being my fade before, obviously, the whole COVID thing happened.
Too soon.
Yeah, so I didn't really get to have him be my fade. I'm going to cop out a little bit here with the fade and just go with you with the JT Poston thing. I would say Jason Day, but that's just too easy also. But so as far as the GPP play, though, I love some Rory Sabbatini this week at 8,800. I think he's a great play. The guy's made 11 of 14 cuts this year. He was top 15 at the Schwab. He's had a break because he played the Heritage, but did not play last week. You look at the stats. I mean, he's checking all the boxes there. I mean, he is let me scratch that. Not necessarily checking all the boxes, but I do like how accurate he is off the tee. Played extremely well last year with the T3 at this event. So I think old Sabs could be a very good GPP play. And nobody ever likes to play him because they just don't like him. So he's probably going to have low ownership anyway. So like him in tournaments. Another guy that I think has just gone under the radar lately is Lucas Glover at 8,400. And nobody's talking about him. That's
not true. Somebody's talking about him. I got a ton of questions about him in the Nut Hut chat last week, and I steered everyone the wrong way.
See, I haven't, I guess just what I see, I don't see a lot on him lately. I mean, you look at his last 3 events since the restart, T23 at the Colonial, T21 at the Heritage, T20 at the Travelers. I mean, the guy's just been solid. And these are all courses that perfectly set up for his game. And you know what? I'm sure the guy growing up in South Carolina, Greenville, South Carolina, played a lot of Donald Ross courses. He knows how to play these courses. I just think at 8,400, he has got great upside this week. I don't mind that price at all. You look at the stats, definitely checks the box in strokes gained approach. He's top 10 in the field there, top 16 in the field there. He's 12th in birdie or better percentage. He's 15th in the field in driving accuracy. I think Lucas Glover makes for a great tournament play, and if his ownership is low, I will be all over him. Now, we'll see what the ownership looks like, but anyway, I love some Glover this week.
I did write him down in the fade category. I didn't land on it fully, but I could be convinced to fade him. Now he's 40. Now, Pat, you're 40. What? 2?
3. Damn it.
43. I mean, this is his 4th week playing. That's different than Bryson, than Victor Hovland playing in their 4th week. He's played a lot of golf. Could he be a little weary? Potentially. I do feel like these greens are going to give him more of a fit than what we saw in the last couple of weeks.
We do know his putting is
awful.
It's got to be.
As I'm sitting here thinking about it, I'm counteracting the fatigue thing. Like, can you imagine his life during quarantine with that wife of his? Like, hey, listen, if you start to think to yourself, man, I got a crazy old lady at the house of the quarantine, I need to get out of there. Remind yourself of Lucas Glover's wife.
Well, wouldn't you think that means that's a good thing for him?
Like, yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Like, he's probably out of the house, like practicing.
Yeah, just saying I'm counteracting myself. I'm contradicting myself a little bit here with I bet he's ready to go. Well, there's somebody in here that I think we have to talk about, even though neither one of us mentioned him, and that's Doc Redman.
Well, I didn't mention him because he was my cash play, which is
you jump around so weird with your plays.
Well, he's going to be high owned, but he is literally, like, if you look at somebody whose game perfectly fits Detroit Golf Club from what we've seen, Doc Redman is it. And you know what? He played extremely well here last year. I mean, he was 2nd here last year.
I'm sold on the Doc, man. Like, I'm ready to camp out in the doctor's office a little bit. You know what I mean? Get a little. I'm ready. I'm ready for it. Like, I do think he's going to be pretty I don't know. He may not be popular. Actually, he got a big price jump. I mean, we've not paid that for Doc Redman ever.
That's the
Not even
only thing that
close.
holds me back.
8,500.
Yeah.
But again, people like you have to consider the field that we're in. Like everybody is getting a big price jump. And while I do think that players are artificially priced, like I don't think JT Poston's price is fair, but look at the betting odds. That's what I looked at that today. Doc Redman's betting odds at a site that I shall not name, that I believe and we believe is a little more accurate in terms of their golf numbers. Meaning it may not be a place I want to bet because I think they're actually very sharp numbers. But his odds on that site would have put him, if you want to rank him under DraftKings players, would have put him below Scotty Scheffler and above Harris English before Harris English withdrew. So his odds on that site were as short as right there between Scheffler and English. So better than Sabbatini, Post, and Day. Any of those guys above him, up to Scheffler. So I think Redman has the chops to win. He's a young kid with a ton of confidence right now. Yeah, it's going to be really interesting to see his ownership projections come Wednesday night in terms of DFS. But if you want to bet him, I don't mind betting him at all. At anything over, I mean, dude, I'd bet him. I don't know. I'd bet him at anything over like 60-1. If you, where is he right now? Have you looked?
Well, what I'm looking at is 50-1. If you can get him better than 50,
I think I would bet him at 50. I think I'd still bet him at 50-1.
Yeah,
I think I'd still bet him at 50-1. Yeah,
I mean he's literally he's like the 12th or 14th shortest odds player in the field.
Dude, look at his. Oh God, talk about a guy who. I mean, his approach numbers, his iron play, coming off of the break at the Charles Schwab, gained 4.7 strokes. No rust there. Then going into the Heritage, gained 7.8. And then last week, gained 5.1. His irons are freaking dialed in. He just cannot chip and putt. He can't putt or chip. But, I mean, if he just breaks even with the putter, I mean, last week he lost 1.7 strokes putting and finished 11th.
By the way, just a little side note, he and Dustin Johnson were written up in the Fantasy Golf Sommelier last week.
Saw that. Okay. It's very nice. All right, so there's our thoughts on Doc Redman. I got a feeling we're gonna have some chatter about him come Wednesday.
Yeah,
I think we're gonna have some chatter. All right, moving on. Why don't you start us with the 7K? We're gonna go 3 tournament plays, cash play, and a fade. What you got?
All right, well, I'm going to start with my tournament plays, and I'm going to start with a guy that I've just been on all year, and I'm going to continue to be on him until he just completely fails me. But that is Mr. Alexander Noren at 7,800. I like him this week.
You have loved some Noren for sure.
I just think he's, first off, if you look at the odds, he's around 80-1, which I think are very good odds for him. 7,800 I think is a good price. He's kind of average across the board when you look at the stats. But the guy's just played, I mean, pretty solid over the last few weeks, especially since we started. I mean, he was, I guess 60th at the Schwab, but he kind of fell apart on the weekend, but he's T21 at the RBC Heritage. I like what I saw there. I think Noren at 7,800 is a pretty good price. He's going to be low owned this week. There's no way that a ton of people are going to be playing that guy. So I like him. Another guy that I don't know if I've mentioned in a while that I like at 7,600, and that's Maverick Mcneely. I mean, he's coming in there. He's made 13 of 16 cuts this year on tour. He's top 20 in the field, by the way, in putting on Poa-annua greens. You look at the last few weeks, he doesn't necessarily finish. He's not a top 10 type guy, but for it priced at 7,600, I don't mind him. He was, T11 a while back at the Honda, T32 at Colonial, T58 at the Heritage. You look at checking boxes and whatever else. He's 45th in the field in strokes gained approach, 38th in opportunities gained. He's 26th in par 4 scoring, top 25 Sorry, looking at a different person. But he does check the box in driving accuracy. I just think Maverick McNeely is just one of these guys that's just like coming under the radar every single week, but plays pretty solid. I like the cut percentage that he's made. So I'm a fan of him. So I will play him in some tournaments. He's 90-1, by the way, as far as his odds are concerned. Another guy in the cheap range here at 7,200, Mark Hubbard. I mean, old Hubs, Homeless Hubs, by the way, on Twitter is his feed. He's been pretty good. You know, he checks the box in strokes gained approach, opportunities gained. He's 10th in the field in par 4 scoring. We've seen him be up there in the early part of the week as far as the lead's concerned. You look at his recent results. He is he's made his since they started back, he's made every single cut with a T33 at the Heritage, a T37 last week. At the Schwab, which was the one he had the first round lead? Was it the Schwab? Was it Colonial?
No, I thought.
I think it was a Colonial.
Or maybe
I don't know. Either way, he kind of faltered a little bit on the weekend. But I like some Hubbard at 7,200, so he is another GPP play of mine. As far as cash, I just think Brendan Todd is just too, in this on a course like this, a guy as solid as he is, screw what he did on Sunday. I mean, he hit one hole really got him on Sunday in that back nine. I mean, Brendan Todd is just playing incredible right now. So I am all in on him for cash at 7,800. The fade for me is Kiz. He just doesn't have the game right now. He's not showing us anything to say that you need to play Kevin Kisner right now. Love the guy. I want his game to be good.
Yeah.
And I think this course could probably be good for him, but I'm not seeing anything. So there you go.
Yeah. Okay. Interesting. There's some agreement here. I'm interested in a couple of names you said. I will. Yeah. So I like Todd as well. You mentioned him. I like him in tournaments, actually. But only because I was having a hard time deciding between him near the top and HV3. I think HV3 is going to be he's going to be higher owned, but I think you could play him in any contest you want. Also, like both of them from a betting standpoint, I think I found Todd around 90-1, which is pretty high for a 2-time tour or 3-time tour winner and somebody who almost won last week. 90-1 is pretty good. And then Harold Varner's like 70-1. I think he's close. He's knocked on the door a few times. He's just playing really well right now. He scores a lot for DFS in terms of DraftKings. I do think he'll be the chalky play. So maybe you roll with him in cash and you go with Todd and get a little more ownership leverage. Who I think maybe around 10% maybe across a lot of tournaments there. But I actually had Maverick McNeely written down as well. So that was interesting that you brought him up. He's not been as sharp with his irons as he normally is, but when you look long-term average, he's actually very good with his irons as well. But he's faltered a little bit these last couple of weeks. But despite that, still making cuts and hanging in there. I think McNeely in this field is a very interesting play and very live, and hopefully comes in sub 10-8%. That would be nice. And then finally for tournament, man. I think you ride the hot hand with Will Gordon. I like the value at 7,300. I like the scoring potential. This is a guy who is trying to solidify his tour card. He had, I think after last week, he only had 2 sponsors exemptions left that he could have taken, but that the top 5 at the Travelers gives him an unlimited amount of sponsors exemptions that he can use. But he still has to finish in the top, 125 in the FedEx Cup standings, which right now he's like 79th. So he's motivated, he's young, and if you look at the events he's had a shot at, I mean, he's only played in 6 PGA Tour events. Okay, 2 missed cuts, a 55th, a 10th, a 21st, and a 3rd. I mean,
he's a stud. People got sidetracked talking about Morikawa, who I love, and Hovland and Wolf and all those guys, but he was a stud at Vandy, I believe, was where he was.
Yep.
I mean, I don't mind the play at all. And 7,300, you're still getting them pretty cheap.
He gained strokes in every category last week.
We saw this too with like Wolf and Hovland and Morikawa is that they started out a little bit cheaper than they should have been, and then it sort of regressed to the mean. If you're going to play a guy, it's like we talk about some of these web.com guys or Corn Ferry, whatever, you know, you need to start playing them now to get a little bit of leverage and get like before their prices start to really increase. Then like once everybody figures out who they are, like Hovland, like what we're seeing this week where he's 10,000. I mean, play him now.
Yeah. I mean, I think the biggest factor for me with Gordon is what it has to do for his confidence and his mental. Man, we talk to so many caddies and players, man. This thing is so much more mental than you could ever possibly imagine. It's like our boy John Tillery, coach to Ricky Fowler and Kevin Kisner and Scott Brown. He said, what is it? Strokes gained, home life. But what he's saying is like, there is so much going on and so much matters between the ears of these boys that you'll never be able to predict. And that's why sometimes this is frustrating, right? Because everything seems to click on paper and then something doesn't work right. Something doesn't pan out. And you never know what these guys are thinking. But I'm thinking for a young guy like him who had a great college career, who was reduced to having to go play McKenzie Tour, Corn Ferry Tour events while Hovland and you mentioned Wolf and Morikawa are getting all the spotlight, comes out with a shot, gets his shot, gets a sponsor's exemption, and finishes third in a strong field, finishes third just behind Dustin Johnson. What that has to do for your confidence level, to playing with these guys, competing with these guys, and looking around and seeing not all the big names this week, and then just the extra motivation to say, all right, now I've got a little. I'm playing with some chips now. Like I got some chips, and I'm 79th in the FedEx Cup, and I got to keep doing this thing, but I can do it, and I'm motivated. I don't know, man. I think that's good for a young guy like that. So I want to ride that while it's hot is basically what I'm saying. All right. So my fade in this range is going to be Snedeker. I feel like this is a bold fade. I feel like a lot of people are going to be on Snedeker. A lot of people
are going to like him. He likes these greens. He likes his course.
But here's what I don't like about Snedeker right now, man. He has been pretty inconsistent. Like he's just been pretty inconsistent since January, since the restart. It came out pretty good the first couple weeks. Miscut. 22nd WGC, which isn't fantastic. I mean, WGC is top third of the field. All right. Comes out, RBC Heritage, loses can't even hit a fairway at the Heritage. Then he turns around and hits a fairway, still can't hit his irons, last week at the Travelers. Like, he just seems very inconsistent to me. He lost 6 shots on approach last week. 6. That's code for a lot. Like, that's a lot. Now, he'll probably hit them better this time, but he also gained 5 strokes putting, right? Like, that's also a lot, even for Snedeker, who does tend to gain a lot of strokes putting, like, even for Snedeker. So I don't know, man. I just don't love the consistency and the fact that I'm going to pay up $7,900. And I just think there's a lot better options. I'd rather go up to Hadwin a little bit if you got the cash, or drop down to Todd or HV3 or McNeely, who we just mentioned right there. I'd rather have all 3 of those guys. So give me the savings. I think Sneds will be a little chalky. I'll fade him.
I feel like come Thursday or come Wednesday night, I'm going to end up like just
full on Sneds.
I'm just going to do it.
Yeah, that is kind of what he does. He kind of lulls you to sleep, and then by Wednesday night, you're like, oh. Anybody in the 6K range? You said to ignore you in the 6K, but I mean, we got to know.
A couple guys, and these are not. I'm not going to necessarily say these are more just gut plays for me because, for one, my first play at 6,800, which I like, is Lanta Griffin, and he had a great finish last week at top 25, but he didn't start the restart very well. And he didn't check a whole lot of boxes for me, but I just, as far as a form kind of play, I just like, playing a guy who had a good week going into this tournament. So I think Lanto could be an interesting play. Also, I like Sam Burns at 6,900. I think he could be a good play this week. He is checking a few boxes. He's third in the field in opportunities gained. He's 18th in birdie or better percentage. So a guy that is scoring And we talked about that early on in the show, like guys that are scoring. Sam Burns is one of those guys, and Sam Burns is, hasn't been. He did play here last year. He finished T42, so he made the cut. Hasn't been, incredibly good coming off of the break. Well, he only played the Heritage, which he missed the cut, and then he did finish top 25 last week. But he was playing well before that, so I think Sam Burns could be a good play at 6,900. I like him as well. And then a guy that we've gotten a ton of questions about in the Nut Hut, and that's Wes Bryant.
Yeah.
Who is, he's come out pretty. I've been surprised with what he's done. At 6,500, this is another course, a guy that should be comfortable on Donna Ross design courses. A good iron player, a great putter. I mean, he is a great putter in general.
Yeah.
I haven't looked necessarily at his stats, but he really is a good putter. So I think Wes Bryant at 6,500 could be an interesting play this week, and we know he's going to be pretty low owned. And I've been really impressed with how he's played coming off of this whole injury thing and everything else. So I think he's a good sort of just flyer play in this range. So that's all I got. What you got?
Yeah, actually, I had Brian written down as well. Definitely fits the mold here. I think he's added a little length too since his layoff. He's hitting the ball a little bit longer, which is good for him. I also had written down a Georgia boy that one time me and you danced the night away at the Kisner Foundation event. That is Sepp Straka.
Yes. He played well here last year.
T11 here last year. Played well at the Heritage a couple weeks ago. I don't know. I like the scoring ability. I like the upside with Sepp. He's also one that could just finish absolutely DFL. But I do think of a lot of players down here. He's got top 10 upside with him. I think going back to Nate Lashley makes sense. Like, I'm not usually one to jump on the defending champ.
I agree with
that.
But
at $6,600, like, I mean, I know he's sucked lately, since the restart. And there's always the thing about, like, you don't want to play the defending champ. They have added pressure, they have added responsibility, blah blah blah. And that is true. I think that's a lot less true when you have COVID, because you don't have the pro-ams, you don't have all the hospitality crap going on, all the sponsorship stuff going on. It is a different scene that these guys are dealing with. And I mean, don't forget, like, even since his win here last year, has he been inconsistent? Yes. But he's also had a third place finish at the Greenbrier, which is kind of a similar vibe. He's had a 20th at the CJ Cup. He had a third place finish at the Waste Management. He did play in the Outlaw Tour event that we saw. That doesn't count, but he played in it. He's been playing some golf, and, like, you got to think, like, for a guy like this, he comes here and he's thinking, man, like, I had some magic here last year. 25 under is freaking that's nothing short of freaking David Ass Copperfield magic to finish 25 under in a PGA Tour event. I don't care who you are, what tournament you're playing. And for that price, that's pretty sick, man. 6,600. I'll take a little bit of that. And then I don't know, man. Norlander, Pat Perez, they kind of pop. For Cameron Davis, those are just some names I'm looking at. I mean, my boy Norlander, I mentioned him last week in the Nut Hut. Like, I'm worried about his upside because his putter's so terrible. But I feel like he's actually a decent cut maker on courses like this that are shorter, accuracy type courses, man. He's a tee to green stud. Tee to green, he really is. Stud.
If you watch him,
he just can't freaking putt.
I have followed him on a lot of rounds, and you are correct. The putting is an issue, but the dude just hits fairways, hits greens, and if he just can get it, and we've talked about this all the time. I mean, if you just never know when the putter is going to get hot. So for a guy like him, if it gets hot this week, he could do extremely well. So
yeah. Finally, like I said, Cameron Davis sticks out to me a little bit. He has not played well since the restart, missed 2 cuts, but I like the upside. I think he could absolutely finish DFL, but I also think he's capable of finishing top 10, 15, 20 in this field. He scores a lot of Draftkings points. So if he makes a cut, he's going to get you. He's going to feast on these par 5s. He's a longer hitter. Really, if you look over his PGA Tour career, he's a pretty solid iron player. Lately, it hasn't shown since the restart, but he's actually career-wise been a pretty solid iron player at 6,500. I think that's interesting. So there you go, Pat. I will say I wanted to bring up a couple matchups before we wrap this thing up and get to your rap lyrics. I did see a couple other matchups. I already mentioned the one about Seabez over Kiz, but I saw Nate Lashley at plus. This is on DK Sportsbook. I saw Nate Lashley plus 100 over Harry Higgs. Now, I love me some Harry Higgs, man, but Higgs isn't playing really well right now. And for all the reasons I just mentioned Lashley, and you get him at a plus number, I think that's an interesting tournament matchup. Bubba, I also found at plus 110 over Finau. Now, neither one of them I want in DFS right now, but I do think when you look at what they're doing well, I like where Bubba's trending and the categories he's trending in at a plus number on Finau. And then you mentioned Sabbatini. I also like him. He's plus 100 over JT Poston. And I talked about Poston's iron woes. I feel like that's kind of an easy one myself, actually. And I wrote down Wesley Bryan is 20-1 for a top 10 on DK Sportsbook. I think that's an interesting number. Anything else, buddy?